Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Speak. I'm Talia Pardo. I'm an editor, an intuitive mentor, and a life coach. And it is my greatest pleasure to have with us today Abby Kneipp. I've known her for about 6 years now. Abby is a mentor and a guide for highly sensitive and gifted women. For the last decade, she's dedicated herself to the healing arts, to understanding how the human psyche works, and to initiating women into the depths of the ancient feminine wisdom. Abby is to be experienced, and this is true. Her work is deep and wildly transformational. She is soul deep, and I can attest to that because I've witnessed, Abby, I've witnessed you step into your soul purpose. I've witnessed you blossom and bloom over the last few years, and it truly is an experience to interact with you. You're not for you reach the mind, but you reach it all, the soul, the mind, the body. And so it's a real pleasure. And I absolutely loved, I was just reading through the notes again, and I love that you wrote, why do you want to appear on the show in my form? And you wrote, because I love Talia with my whole heart, and every time we get together we make magic. And it's so true. It's so true. It's a true soul connection with someone who, you know, we've had a few one-on-one calls over the years, but not so many. And yet every single time it really is magic. It's a powerful experience. So it's really my pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for that beautiful intro. I adore you so deeply. And that's literally why I wanted to come on, because every time we connect, even if it's just through a text message, I just feel the magic and the potency of our magic line and just our bond, you know. Yes. So
definitely. And we had a good run through last week. This is the 2.0, full transparency. We did a whole hour, and then somehow I didn't click the next step on record. But like we said, I believe the universe has a grander purpose for us. So it was all in the interest of just having us connect even further, and then, you know, being ready to launch today with just, I have every confidence it's going to be an incredible conversation. I've been reflecting even on the things that we talked about last week, so we can even refresh and rehash through that. So yes, why don't we start by telling the audience a little bit more about where your journey has taken you to come to this point of really being a guide and a vessel for women in ancient feminine healing and womb healing. You've worked with grief and trauma, and you know, you're unabashed in the things that you share about, and it's so inspiring to see you share things that really touch the intimate core of women and people, you know, in general, that you know, you share it freely. And that's what's so incredible to some of us who see it and you know, might go, wow, how does she have that confidence and the courage to put that out there for everyone to see? So like, what brought you to be able to do that? Because that's really a gift.
Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. Oh, I just love you so much. Yeah, so my journey began in 2012. I used to drink a lot, and like it was a problem. And I just convinced myself that I was happy with my life, you know, I loved my job. I was a teacher, like I love being with children, but I just knew there was always something more for my life, but I could never quite put my finger on it, and I didn't want to believe it. It was kind of like that old, like I never used to be really that kind to myself or self-loving at all. I was like, well, who am I to dream big? Like I never thought I would be an entrepreneur or have my own business. Like that was never really, some entrepreneurs say they're born like that, but for me it wasn't. When I heard people say they got their own business, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. But I never had the ideas of that. So I remember just actually being in a bar, my favorite bar, and I was quite intoxicated. And I remember going, a voice came in, the first time that's ever happened. Call it God, spirit, my higher self, same thing in the end. It was like, it's what are you divine. Doing? Yeah, like what are you doing? Look around you. Are you really happy? And I remember just going, no, I'm not. Wow, like I'm in a zoo. Like I just saw all these drunk people stumbling, and it was like I got this observer seat of like what was really going on. I was like, wow, like no, I'm not happy. And the next day I literally said, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. And I quit drinking for the first time ever for 6 months. I got in the gym, I got a personal trainer. And then one day I was like, and I never had a belief yet in like God, divine, but I knew there was something bigger than me. I said, please help me change my life. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not happy. Please help, please, please, please. And I just would say that over and over. And I lost a lot of weight. I quit drinking. I got my first ever relationship. And I was 20 at the time. And then my mom sends me a text message saying, hey, there's this free personal development 3-day thing this weekend. Do you want to go? I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't even know what personal development was. I didn't even look it up. I was just like, I'm in. I literally went in blind. No idea what I was in for. And it was such a powerful weekend. And I then signed up to a business course, and I was still sitting in there going like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I don't want to have my own business. And then I end up winning a seat in the 6-month NLP coaching life certification course. And I passed. And that was just extraordinary. We talked about family constellations and ancestral healing. And so that really opened me up to a whole new world. And then I went to Central and South America the next year. I wasn't ready to start charging people. I just knew deep down my integrity said, like, no, I've got life to live first. I'm really young still. There's things I need to go through before I start doing this. And so I sat with some elders and I did plant medicine, and oh my, that really changed the course of my path forever. And it felt like home. I was like, I've done this before. Like, my first ceremony, I'm like, I've done this. I was in the middle of Bolivia. I only told my brother, so no one knew what I was doing. I didn't tell a soul. I had no mobile phone then. Like, I left it in Australia, and no one knew where I was, but I felt so at home. And then I had a beautiful year. End of the year, unfortunately, I was sexually assaulted, and I fell pregnant to that sexual assault. And so I decided to have an abortion. And I was in Mexico at the time. And I placed my hands over my womb on this beautiful beach. And I said, I'm going to protect you and I'm going to look after you. I'm so sorry. Like, I haven't actually done that. And from then on, everything changed. The year I met you actually was the first year I signed up for doing a women's program. And so the third module was all about menstruation. And I like, oh, it brought up every emotion imaginable. So then fast forward to now, I healed my womb through taking on all of those natural alternative modalities. I healed my womb. I've never been more devoted and dedicated to something in my life. And I've gone through many dark nights of the soul since, many initiations, different types of trauma, abuse, lost my father to suicide, had a near death, many heartbreaks. And now I'm here teaching and guiding women how to access the ancient feminine mysteries and, you know, talking about the pleasure and the pain of being human and how to walk in that duality so we can just be the divine expression that we are, to not deny our humanity, the pain that we will inevitably experience, but to know how to alchemize it back into love, and teaching them how to heal their wombs and step into their power. I just love seeing women in their power and their pleasure. Like, nothing makes me happier knowing that I get to pass that on, and that their journey doesn't have to be as difficult as mine. Just brings me so much joy. So that's why I'm here today.
It just shows how you've evolved through all of those experiences though too, right? I mean, you list them on, and I'm not saying that you're listing it off casually or trivially at all, because they're each individual experience for you is highly traumatic and highly painful, but it shows how you've evolved beyond or through them, and that you're able to list them and say, well, I was through this and I've experienced this and experienced this, because they as the whole have worked towards, you know, with all the hard work that you've done to create the woman today, right? Who's here to share those experiences and what you've learned and how to move through them. And it makes sense that, you know, I saw that you had your grief program last month, 2 months ago, and now you've moved into a pleasure program. And it's almost like that's kind of the way of life, right? Like, that's, you know, we have to struggle in order to evolve, in order for personal growth, all of that. You really do have to feel the pain and learn how to cope with it or deal with it, and live your life and heal through it. before you can truly experience the pleasure. Because otherwise, it's the pleasure that you talked about earlier in your life, right? Like I went through that stage too, where it's just drinking and
Yeah.
partying and superficial associations, and nobody's really being themselves, and yet they need the
Mm.
intoxication to feel like they can be themselves, and they pay for it the next day because you feel like crap, right? Like, and that's the other part, right? It makes you really so physically sick afterwards that everything is like recovery from it. But why does joy have to be followed by such a low, like such pain, the hangover and all of that? It really
Mhm.
should be, it's the opposite, right? It's like the pain can lead you to joy, not the joy having to be paid for with
Yeah,
a day or two of painful recovery.
absolutely. That was really powerfully said. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I realized it the other day. My kids were asking me, they're 11 and 14. They were asking me about, alcohol, and mommy, have you ever been drunk? And I said, I have. And I talked about it, and very minimally and age appropriately. But I also, and they said, well, but what's a hangover? And I'm like, that's the next day when your body is so, so over abused that you feel really, really sick. And it really highlighted, I think, for the first time to me of like, it's true. I would even like leave a day after because I know that's like recovery Sunday. Why did I want to put myself through so much suffering, right? Just just to have that one night where I think we think we're doing so well and we think we're having so much fun, but we're really just covering up everything else. Like we're so not dealing with the pain, and we're not, like you said, you're not really happy.
Totally. Oh, you just have such an amazing way with words. And yeah, you just nailed it. Absolutely. Like having a recovery day, and just how low I would feel and just like self-loathing and just like those
Yeah.
awful thoughts. And
Yeah, so it
yeah.
really perpetuates that like negative self-harm cycle, right? Instead of
Uh,
moving us into, and you're so in tune, your soul is so pure and so in tune that you
mm,
had the voice, the message that lets you know that like this has to change. And I think often those of us who are, I don't know, it's part of the journey, right? You come to a certain point and you know what you're doing isn't working, and you start to seek out, the universe brings it to you too, right? Like you on that spot, and your mom brought along this program. But like we start to be open to and to seek out things to help our lives change. We kind of don't know what it is because you're still starting from,
mm,
I don't know what to do, I just know it has to be different. And I went through that too, where I would like jump on kind of every seminar that came my way. I even did a Tony Robbins day when I came to Montreal once, which was so much fun, but like
yeah.
all of those things that like I was just, oh, I'm signing up for this and I'm signing up for this, because you're searching for something that your soul resonates with as a
Yeah.
starting point, right? And then you can kind of move forward. But until then, you're kind of just fishing, and that's okay, because that's really the first awareness that you do need to
Yeah.
change something.
Absolutely. Well said.
So tell us more, because I'm personally, I'm speaking, just for my own personal interest. I'm so interested in the womb healing and your work with the womb, because you know again, like having daughters, I'm reflecting and I'm seeing them go through puberty, and how do we talk about periods in the household and things like that. And I really try not to make it anything that we have to be hush hush about, although they want to be
Mm,
private, and so they should, absolutely, they're private about
mm,
it. But it's not the same kind of embarrassment that I grew up with, or right, or we grew up with. So I'm trying to, and thankfully my boyfriend's a cool guy, so he'll just be, like, oh, okay, we see what's going on this week, not in any derogatory way, but we're able to talk about it in the house, and just to give them that space. So many of us are coming from a space where, or an upbringing where we don't talk about the cycle, right? We use euphemisms for it. We hide it as best as we can, and we don't explore into all of the benefits or the positives, or it's a part of our body that we need to care well for. How to even do that?
mm,
So how do you, like, where do you even start with your clients? Like, what do you bring
mm.
to them to open their minds about it?
Yeah, I love this question so much. When it comes to private clients, it will generally come up in the first or the second session of like, what is your relationship to your womb? And I'll ask them all the questions like, are you on the pill? Do you have an IUD, an implant? And then I let them know, this is the one thing I'm quite black and white with women, and I have no judgment whatever. If women are still on the pill, there is no judgment from me. But what I do let them know is, you know, if you do want to heal your womb and go on this journey with me, you are going to have to get off the pill and the IUD, because otherwise you're not going to be able to go all the way, and it's going to block you, which it does, unfortunately. And I've never been on either. Thank gosh, there was some strong force in me when I was a teenager, because I was quite insecure and really sensitive. Like, I would be in doctors' offices just crying because they were just so forceful. But I remember one time this elderly woman said to me, I was in there with my mom, said, I need to go on the pill. And I was really young. I wasn't bleeding yet, but I think it was for my skin. And I looked at her and I said, no. And she was so offended. She had the look like, how dare you? And I just said, no. And my mum was so proud. She didn't like, my mum has always been really supportive of my decisions, which I'm so grateful for. And I said, no, I'm not. Amazing. I'm not. It's like, I must have been like 13 or 14. And I was just like, no. And my mother had never talked to me about it. I don't think I even really knew about it, but my body was like, no way. Thank God.
It's funny that the women's health industry doesn't seem to understand the true health, right? Like, the pill is used for acne, but it has a whole other impact on your reproductive system, right? And, you know, I had an IUD for years, and my doctor, when he was changing it, like, he thought it was the first one was already out, and he inserted a second one, and then we realized I had two. And he was like, you'll be okay. Come back in a few weeks if you have a problem. And I did. I had a massive problem. And I had to go back, and thankfully I was able to get them out. Like, that's the last time I used any contraceptives at all. But it's because doctors, there's some kind of disconnect there, that I'm only awakening to, right? Like, I think the world is awakening to, what femininity is awakening to. What we're doing to our reproductive systems is really, we're doing it to all of ourselves, you know, like, it impacts who we are as a woman.
Yes.
And so when you work with womb healing, so how do you move a client through, or the program that you did a program on womb healing too, didn't you? Yeah. So what are the kind of, you know, tips or takeaways that you know, we can walk away with, or highlight, you know, not to give the whole program away, but, you know, like, kind of important factors, you know, important.
No, I love this so much. Like, I looked the other day at all of the interviews I've done that are on Spotify, and all of them but one is like womb. And I'm like,
Abby is the womb master. The womb mistress.
Like, what I love the most. Yeah, I love that. So yeah, when it comes to private clients and programs, so that's the first thing I'll say. I'll just be like, look, straight up, it's your sovereign choice. I'll never, ever, ever tell you to do something that you don't want to do. But absolutely, when it comes to this, I'm very black and white. Like, the pill is not good. It's just not. And as you said, it messes up our reproductive system, our hormones, like our mood, our emotions, our ability to feel pleasure, our ability to know what our emotions are ours, or if it's just the pill, all sorts of things. So I tell them about why, because I'm a strong believer in, like, not just saying to do something, but having things to back it up with. So I tell them like all the things that my clients and every woman I know that's been on the pill and IUD has experienced. I haven't met a woman yet that hasn't had symptoms. So that's the first and foremost. And then I will guide them through like deep feminine healing, because that's usually the first step. So even in my program, Temple of Isis, the first module was feminine healing, because there is a disconnect from their deeper feminine essence. And so that is really, really big for them. There's quite a big awakening that happens for them in their bodies, in their beings. And then I just guide them through. Some of them feel quite anxious after they've generally, I would say 95% of my clients hop off the pill when they work with me. And so they will generally feel quite anxious or things like that. And I just guide them through it, like everything's okay. Your body is purging all the toxins and chemicals, and your body knows what to do. If you have heavier bleeds or anything like that, just keep trusting the process of your body. I have a list of herbs that I recommend to women as well. Moxibustion is an amazing Chinese herb that you just light and you just wave the smoke over your womb. I do that every month that I bleed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I just have to tell you, because my grandfather used to practice acupuncture in those days, right? I mean, he was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in the like Western Canadian Jewish guy who was practicing, he was an eye doctor, but he practiced acupuncture on the side and Chinese, Eastern medicine. And we know the moxibustion in my family, we use it for like ankle sprains and, all kinds of stuff. So it's very familiar to me. I love it that you just brought that up.
Oh, I love that so much. It's so amazing because not many people I know talk about it. So that's just so beautiful. I love it. My womb loves it. I have a stick with me when I travel.
That's amazing.
And my favorite company is called Super Feast. I actually worked with them for a while in Australia. They're Australian. And they have like mushrooms and adaptogens, so like reishi chaga, but it's wild crafted and it's like beyond organic. So you can just feel that they're working on your system. I've tried many other brands and I haven't really felt much. So there is one of them's called I Am Gaia, and it's just for women. So women's hormones and everything like that. So I tell them about all of that. And then like, peppermint tea, licorice root, marshmallow root. I also get into diet, getting off alcohol and refined sugars and deep fried foods, because that also plays a role into our womb health. So I love that. Like when I work with a client or I do a program, I go from every level. It's like I speak about the esoteric wisdom, the spiritual, sexual, physical, emotional, mental, physical health. And so to not overwhelm them, I just go at their pace. But in a program, for example, each module is like working up to them just reclaiming their power more and more. So I'm very intentional about which module I release. But I would say for anyone tuning in, listening, definitely having a clean diet is one of the best things we can ever do for health in general, and especially our womb and the way that we bleed. So, and I'm a vegan, but I never, ever, ever, ever have said you need to be vegan to be healthy. Like that's a whole other conversation that gets me fired up. You eat meat, amazing. If you don't eat meat, amazing. I don't believe in either or, as in you have to be one way or the next. No. What I believe strongly in is that we definitely need to eat local food. So whether you still eat meat, you're getting local as much as possible. Absolutely. And the plants and the fruits and vegetables, like, can we get it local, wild crafted as much as possible, and just spray free as best as possible. That's so important.
Local, you're avoiding all the flash freezing that they do in the fruits and vegetables and the transport, the time that it sits in the freezer, it's the fresher the better, right? I mean, we know when we buy our summer fruits often, at the grocery stores here, we can tell it's been frozen. You can, or it's still not even thawed when we buy it, but it often it'll rot almost immediately when you bring it home because it's been frozen, right? So it's definitely not what we should be ingesting. Yeah.
Totally. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yoni eggs and pleasure wands, I am such an advocate for. I've been using them for 7 years and they have changed my relationship with my womb. And sometimes women go, oh, is that just to orgasm? But it's so much more than that. It's not about like having a tight vagina. I think a lot of people get on that bandwagon. It's strengthening your pelvic floor. So you can hold more pleasure. It is being able to release trauma that gets stored in the walls of our vagina. So that can be numbness. It absolutely increases your pleasure and your ability to orgasm in different ways. But it's about self-love. Like, you're able to love yourself more and take care of your beautiful sacred womb. And she loves it. Like, she loves the eggs. And if you're a woman who doesn't like them all, that's your womb saying there's something else for her. But that's something else as well. And a couple more things I'll mention is just, it's so simple, but it's such a profound practice that I do every day when I wake up, actually just connecting in with my womb. Even if you just do it for 5 minutes and you just put your hands over her and you just breathe with her and you're just like, oh, I love you. I love you so much. You are so sacred. And it's just by you doing that more and more, you're reclaiming your sacredness with your womb, and everything that society has told you starts to just leave your reality, and that you just bring back that power, because she is the most powerful force in existence. Like, if she can bring through life from another dimension, like what can she not do? There's nothing she cannot not do. She's a portal.
And really the core of our energy and our life force. And by doing that, just even that 5 minutes, I can imagine you're really starting to create a bond with your core, the source of your energy, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like I could say like 1,000 things, so I'll just say one more, because it's just so much. But another one is giving yourself a womb massage. So you can either find a woman who does a womb massage or do it yourself. It's best to lie down or stand up. And I just use coconut oil. The only essential oils I use are Young Living, because they're like 100% therapeutic grade. So you can use a bit of lavender, a bit of Progressence Plus, or a bit of frankincense, rub it in with the coconut oil, and you just rub it over your womb and over the bottom of your belly, and just do what feels good. Maybe you want to go a bit harder in some areas or a bit softer, but just like, it releases tension, it softens you, and it just connects
blood flow too, right? Like, anytime you can increase blood circulation, if you want to talk even just on like a scientifically physical level, you're bringing the blood flow and the oxygen to the area, so you're feeding it, right? And you're helping it get clear it from the toxins, like you said, and bring in healthy nutrients and minerals to it. Anything else that anyone wants to know, they need to reach out to Abby for her program for consulting. But you know what we're talking about is so it's making me reflect back on the conversation we had last week, which was about how, what's been lost about the feminine. And we had a wonderful conversation also, like, talk about, masculinity, how it needs to be honored and and respected and revived for what it truly is, and for the genuine natural balance it is to the feminine. But what's been so lost is how we honor the feminine around our menstruation and our cycles, where it's been presented or kind of manipulated to think that, like, in the ancient cultures, when women were separated from the men, or from their from their village or whatever, from their families during those times, it's not an ostracization. It was made to be like, you're dirty and you're unclean, but it's actually not. It's a time to actually really honor the body and the process that it's going through. And it gave a unified support to women, because it would be women of all ages really there to support each other and pass on wisdom and pass on knowledge from the old to the young, or the older to the young, that we just don't get these days. And like we've said, like, if there isn't an open communication with your daughters, from mom to daughter, there isn't much passed on. They figure it out for themselves. They hardly know anything. They learn from their friends who are not learning it from their mothers either. There's just been such a breakdown of communication and a breakdown of the base of knowledge that was passed down, and the honoring of it, because men honored that too at the time, right? Like, it was something that men knew, that this is the woman's space. We're going to respect that and let them do that, and it's not anything to be belittled or mocked, which it has become today, right? Like, you get that kind of the put down from the men's side and the women. Like, it has all taken such a negative turn. And it was so interesting to know, because I'm sure many people don't even know that part of our history.
Totally. I love that you shared that, because it is such a massive part of our history. And I was speaking to a woman the other day, and she shared that, like, oh my gosh, like I feel so sad that there's no temples anymore for women, you know, like they all got destroyed, the temples and goddess statues. Like I saw my first ever woman statue last year in Mexico, and I stood there and I cried. And my man just held the most beautiful space. I sobbed just standing in front of, I was like, this is the first statue of a woman I have ever seen in my life. And she was breastfeeding, which made it even more beautiful. Like, and then what I assumed was her man was fishing on the other side. So he was gathering and providing. She was just standing on top of the rock breastfeeding. And it was just, so yeah, you know, there was always red tents and temples for women to go to, and the men always honored it, just like the women honored when the men needed to go hunt or they needed to initiate the younger men and do their men's work. And that's been so lost. And I know how passionate you are about it, just like me, of how important it is. It's not just a luxury, it's a necessity to be initiated. Yes. Like we need it. Like when I think of all of the pivotal times in my life, like teenagehood and then growing breasts and hips, and I didn't talk about it when I was younger, but of course I just wanted women to talk to about it, like not men. And that's just natural. Like of course I want to talk to women about like what's going on with my breasts and my hips, and like my skin's breaking out, and like, and then pregnancy, and then, you know, well, first having your period and then pregnancy, and then all of those different stages. Of course I want women to go to about that, because they know.
They know, and that's it. We share it, you know, and for those of us who are lucky enough to have a mother that we could talk about it with, great. But often it's almost, that's why you need the women's village, because it is hard to talk about it with your mother. But the aunts, right? Like the aunties and the grandmothers and the sisters, that's where that gets compensated for. Right. So, you know, that you could know that she's not talking to me. She's going to have somebody else to talk to who's going to pass on the same kind of information and knowledge. And that's what's kind of lost. You know, we try to cultivate that with our daughters, you know, and it's interesting because one of my daughters like wants nothing to do with the conversation. And my other one is so out there and open. She's like, what? She asks me all the questions and it's fantastic. And I love it because I was like my older one who wanted nothing to do with the conversation because I just felt so ashamed because I had nobody to talk to, because it's not that I didn't feel comfortable enough to speak about it with my mom, you know, and it wasn't that kind of environment. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's that's the support system that we all need. Women need women, right? And all of that is just, it's so beautiful to see all of these women that I've started connecting with, that you connect with, you know, that this world that we really are recreating that, even though so much of it is virtual, unfortunately, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, because we can't all sit together in one room, but at least we can make those connections, right, that we wouldn't otherwise make, and start to rebuild that feminine knowledge that goes along with everyone I've spoken to. You know, there's none of that derogatory attitude towards the masculine either, right? Like that's what's so beautiful to see. It's that we're celebrating our femininity and the masculine balance, right? We honor our men in our lives, and that's true femininity, you know.
Yes, I love that you said that at the end. That's a really important distinction. That is true femininity. Absolutely, that we are equal. Our male counterparts, we're equal to them. And of course, we're different. That's the whole point.
Equal is not the same. It's just equal, right? Yes. Yeah. And we can value it's the yin and yang. We complement each other for the things that men can do and women can do, and we balance out even our modes of thinking, right? Men are very single-mindedly focused. Sometimes it's a little too single-minded, you know, and it's hard to it's like, can we please there's other things going on, you know, but that's because when you have to go out for 3-day hunt, in like primitive times, you can't be worried about a million other things. You have to be single-minded and focused, and you can't give up after half an hour. You have to go until you get the tiger, and
Yeah.
we have to be able to be multitasking. And even though it may make us like super stressed and crazy, but like, because we have to look after multiple, or in previous, multiple children, and worry about the food and tend the fire, and you've got the like the furs tanning on the side. Like, I don't know, I've thrown myself into these primitive days. It just feels so clear to me.
So true. So true.
Right? Like, we're still held over in those mental processes and the wiring. We've just forgotten the lifestyle of it, right? Like, it's just the application has changed, right? But the purpose has remained, or maybe it's the opposite. But yeah.
Love that you shared that. Alison Armstrong, she has the most amazing talk / I downloaded on Audibles around something with the opposite, syncing with the opposite sex, something like that. But even if anyone who listens just looks her up, I think it's like 6 hours. You can listen to it in chunks, but it is hilarious. You would love it too, sister.
Oh, I'm going to check it out. Definitely.
Oh, I know you're going to love it. It's so fun. And she really talks about the primal DNA within man and woman, how the single focus and she talks about like dates and what happens. And it's so funny. And it really helped me understand the masculine even a bit more and go, okay, we really are like a different species, like.
Oh, by far. Absolutely. And that's the beauty, right? Like, your laugh is so beautiful, but the fact that we can laugh about it, right, means that like we can really celebrate it and we can honor it. And that's so important to me, because I feel like it's been too long since we've seen any of that happen, right? That's also a bit being lost, and it's important for us to make sure it's not,
Oh, big thing that you just said. Especially because, oh my gosh, I know that's a whole other conversation, but I'll just say, like, there's so much emasculation happening, and it's like stems right at the center of matrix society. Like, I'm not even going to open this up, but just now men saying that they bleed and they can fall pregnant, and just like,
that's a whole other, that's another episode.
Right. It's gone so far the opposite spectrum. And what it's down to is just like, if we can't respect that man and woman is different and celebrate that, then there is something wrong. And it's like, I'm so proud of the ones of us that are taking that individual journey instead of just buying into the collective madness really around all of it. It's like, my man isn't meant to be like me. He's like, and I'm turned on because he's not. If I was in a relationship with me, I would be so overwhelmed. All of this. Like, it's like, and where that comes from. Like, I love myself, but gosh, I would be so stressed if I was in a relationship. You know what? I'm like, like, one of me is enough. It's like, I don't want to be with someone like me. That's the whole point.
That's right. Equal is not the same. And even, my boyfriend says that all the time, because sometimes I'll even, like, well, how come you couldn't answer me, like that? And he's like, because that's how you would answer. He's like, if you want me to be a girl, you need to go find a girl, right? He's like, I'm not a girl. So he's like, I physically cannot answer you that way. And it's, can get all huffy about it. But really, like, if we want to really understand them, we have to learn their language. They're not going to speak the way we speak. They're not going to, dive into the things we dive into, but they are going to communicate with us, and they can be very loving and very sensitive and very supportive, right? They're there to hold the container for us, but we're the big energy. They're not the big energy. We're the big energy, right? And that's what I've learned. And once you really can sit in that and embody that, it makes the whole dynamic right. It allows them to be who they are truly, and without them feeling the pressure to be more or less, and it allows us to really shine, right? Because that's all they do. They just like, they're the ones standing there and going like, look at her, look, and they're
Yeah,
happy to do it,
I know. Bless their hearts, these
I
beautiful
know
men. I love that you
they
shared
are.
that. And oh, it just melted my heart hearing you speak about the masculine. And there's something I read the other day, and it was fascinating to me, and I'm going to share it.
Mm,
It's a woman who does a lot of polarity work. I think her
mm,
name Sophie Josephina. I feel like you'd really love her stuff, and really beautiful woman. And yeah, she has a whole program called Healing the Masculine, actually, and I haven't done it, but something she shared the other day was so profound for me. She shared, we all think that the masculine's leading, but he's not. The feminine's
mm.
leading, the masculine's listening. And
Yes,
I was,
yes,
whoa, read the post and I was like, oh my, that makes so much sense.
that hits home. Yeah,
Because when the feminine has a desire, she wants to, he is listening and paying
mhm,
attention. And then that's how he'll like lead through her
definitely.
desire, through what she wants. And it's not to say he never leads of something on his own accord, but
Right.
it's like that makes so much sense. And they talk about this when someone's more of a dom or a submissive in sex, like people think it's the dom that's leading, but actually it's the one that who's submitting, who's leading. And I was
That's
like, wow,
interesting.
I know, because it's like they're the ones who are in their power. And to me, that's the
Mm,
feminine, because they're the ones that are the most surrendered. And they
right.
know, yeah, it's just, it's a fascinating spin on it. And it makes a lot of sense to me,
It
because like
does.
the feminine wants what she wants and the masculine loves giving it to her,
Yes.
so she's like leading by her
Yes.
desire, like, oh, I want this, oh
Right. And you can tell when a woman isn't in her true feminine is when she's demanding, right? Because it's not by demanding from the masculine. It's just by being who she is. And that's the perfect point, because he listens and watches and then takes the steps that he knows, because his whole purpose is he wants the feminine to be happy, because when she's
yeah,
happy, he's happy, right? Like, so it's, that's part of it. So it's, you're absolutely right. And that's when you know that like very pushy demanding energy is not a woman in her she's actually in the
yep,
masculine.
yep,
um
absolutely.
and it's so, that's been such an incredible area of study for me that I haven't been able to delve into very, very deep, like as deeply as I want. But even the work that we did with the mentors that we met through, that they are real
Oh,
masters of
yeah,
understanding it and relating it so that you can understand it yourself. And it took me
absolutely.
years, like years, to finally click it, right? And we've known them for, I don't know, 7 years at this point, 8 years maybe. And it's really maybe it's once I went into my relationship with my partner, my soulmate now, that I was able, because I was able to reflect and observe the dynamic and to
Me
understand,
too.
oh, okay, this is
Me
what they
too.
mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I love that you shared that, because I feel like you know we can absolutely learn, heal, grow so much on our own.
Mhm.
But then there is nothing like being in a relationship with
Oh,
someone that's
definitely.
just going to transform you and just catapult you, because
Absolutely.
then you apply the things that you know, and you find out in real time what works and what doesn't with that particular individual. And it's like, it's confronting, and then it's beautiful, and then it's confronting again, and then it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
there's always a leveling up. And when you have that good dynamic and the good connect, like the right connection, they are supposed to trigger you, right? Like it's not
yeah.
easy, because they are challenging all those things about yourself, and they're challenging you to heal yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to do that work. And that was what was, it was so revelatory to me. And even I think there was one of the multi-author books that I contributed to, the Unchain Your Inner Strength, where I wrote about that. And I spoke with the publisher, Maria, about that, where she was like, you're like blowing my mind when you say you like met your soulmate at the lowest point of your life. Like everybody says, like you have to be all healed, and when you can love yourself, you can love someone else. And like I was in a pit of despair, like when I met him. And
Mm,
he saw thankfully saw the, the potential in me, what was underlying all that pain. But
Mm,
but the most intensive leaps of healing have been done with him. Even though I did
mm,
so many years of work before, right? Like you said, like we do it, but it's when you kind of then really have to apply it.
totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like an ongoing journey on so many different levels, right? Because we like, and Abby, you are so adept at sharing that as the experience,
Mm,
because you embody so much feminine wisdom and energy, and you can relate that and on all the different areas, right? Sexuality, womb healing, relationship wise, life wise, you just have so
mm,
much to contribute. And
mm,
it's such a pleasure to speak with you, to watch you grow, to watch you do what you do. Your journey has been so incredible from where, you said it really started. It's your soul has taken you. You were always meant to do that, right? And you talk a lot
mm,
about, if I can bring up even another topic, um, you talk about, your mission and your drive to fight child trafficking. It's such an important topic that people
mm.
don't even aren't even aware of. I've brought it up to other people and they're like, what do you mean there's like that many kids? Or yes, there are so many children and people who are the human trafficking is like the biggest industry on the planet, and it's the biggest secret.
Yeah.
So like what woke you up to all of that, and how do you find that you can, is it the awareness that you bring to people that you want to at least share and awaken people to knowing about it?
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing this up. It means the world to me. It's the most like biggest thing on my heart, and where I just feel the most like tenderness, and
Mm,
I can feel it now. My heart's just like the vulnerability, and it's just because it's just I sometimes feel lost for words that this is happening, and so I knew about like child slavery, and I've like donated to children for most of my life, did the 40-hour famine as a teenager, and then when I started to find out about corrupt industries, it just broke my heart. So wasn't actually until 2020 that I knew, like I'd heard about child trafficking, but I never really looked
mm,
into it. I didn't know. And 2020 was when I went all the way into the rabbit hole. Like I'd gone in and
mm.
out and believed a lot of the things I'd found around spraying stuff in the sky, all of that. But yeah, I found out about all of it, and that big celebrities and politicians are a part of it, and how it's really running everything. And oh my gosh, I thought I was going to end up in a state of psychosis, to be honest, in
Yeah.
2020. It was like a heartbreak that
Yeah.
is so deep, like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I have spoken on podcasts about it, and I talked about it a lot in 2020, mainly for the whole year. And then my intuition guided me to stop talking about it as much. And I just
Mm,
had to trust that. I was also getting a lot of hate and a lot of
mm.
like awful energy and comments and stuff.
It's
But I just
amazing
kept,
how it triggers people, eh? Like why
oh,
why would something so horrific, why would even if it's the possibility of that, why would that trigger your anger? Right?
right.
Like that's something that's so interesting to me.
It's so wild. Like what I got called like demonic and all sorts of things. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. Totally. So anyone who's listening, if you do want to help or find out more about it, the two organizations, the only ones that I trusted thus far, there may be more, but I haven't found them, is Hope for Justice and Underground Railroad with Tim
Hmm.
Ballard.
Yes, he's
Um,
amazing.
oh, that
He is
man.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Our
And
book that we put out donated to Underground Railroad. Yeah.
yes,
That
yes. I
was,
remember saying it has to be this one. It just, I
yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
yeah, I just, um, Oh no, it was one of the other books. I said Hope for Justice, or yeah,
No,
but
yeah, the book that I put out, I meant, sorry, the Unchain Your Inner Strength gave to the
oh
Underground Railroad. Yeah,
yes, I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
so amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, you can donate to both of those organizations and just find out more information. They're also on Instagram, and they share, can be highly triggering if you're tuning in. They share real life.
Yeah, they really do actually really rescue children. They really do find them,
Yeah,
track them down, and they rescue children from these clutches of these horrible traffickers,
yeah.
and prosecute the traffickers if they catch them. So
And
you
it's
know,
happening all around the
all
world.
the time. Yeah.
And yeah, I like to honor people's sovereignty. Just, I'm not going to say anymore because it's a
Mm.
really
It is.
traumatic,
It's a trick. Yeah, it is.
you know.
When.
Take it at your own pace for anyone tuning
Mhm.
in. If you don't know, please be gentle with how much information that you can handle at one time.
Yeah.
What matters most to me is that people are aware of it. You don't have to know all the other, like just knowing
All the
that it's
details. Yeah.
and that you can acknowledge that this is real will start the shift in consciousness so more people can do something about it. That's what matters most to me. I don't want everyone to know everything that I found out because
Oh God. Yeah.
I was
It
obviously,
is traumatizing.
I obviously needed to, my spirit needed to, but I don't recommend it for everyone. Not everyone can handle it. And that's just me being honest and respectful. Um, it's meant to shake us. Like if it doesn't, there is work to do.
Yeah.
It's meant to just, yeah. So thank
I,
you so much. But my big mission is to create a non-for-profit. So that's like my future
mm,
plan. It's a work in progress. And I just have this sense I'm going to meet Tim Ballard, and I just, yeah,
that's
it's
amazing.
my big mission.
That's
So
amazing. Look, I think people may get triggered by it because it is such a traumatic even the
yeah,
concept, and so it's really like a black cloud on the planet, I feel. And what we're doing and the things, all the beautiful light and energy that we're generating, I think is really of such an essential counter to all of that, right? Like, we thank
yeah,
God that there are those of us out there that are out to put out light and to bring light to others, and awareness. Everything goes towards the same,
yes,
the same end goal, which is to make the
uh,
light brighter than the dark. So.
absolutely, well said. And like, just want to say this to anyone tuning
Mhm.
in, we are more resilient than we realize. And I don't say that from a standpoint of like keep pushing yourself to where you get traumatized. That no, to me true resiliency is that you're here on earth because you can handle it.
Mhm.
And whatever your soul, whatever your intuition guides you to, it's because you can handle it. We can handle life, and we've been told a lie that we're weak or that we're the virus. But when we're so resilient and so strong, and I'm a living testament of it, and so are you, that we can go through the most horrendous things or find out the most horrendous things that's happening on the planet and still stand so strong in our light and with our heart. And to me, that's human. That's being a human being, and there's nothing more beautiful than that. So you can handle it. Anyone listening, watching.
I don't know if there's anything better to end on. Like, I think that's absolutely perfect and beautiful, and the timing is wonderful. So we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much, Abby, for this. This is a beautiful, beautiful gift. And you are a gift to everyone. And I'm so grateful to have had this conversation with you. This is amazing. I'm going to
Thing.
ask you, remember, I asked you about the book list of guest recommendations that I'm putting together that I'll share. So I'm going to ask you to share the book that you recommend, for the audience to look up, the one that had a big
Oh,
impact on you.
Women Who Run with the Wolves by
Mm.
Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It is like the way it's such a turn on how she understands the woman's psyche in a way I've never experienced in my life. It's like the Bible for us beautiful women. It honestly, I keep getting the call, I've got to reread it.
Mm.
Yeah, her work has changed my life.
That's amazing. So we'll definitely that'll be on the list. I think you're the second guest to recommend it. So I think it may already be up, but I'll add your name to who recommends it. And you can find it at my list on bookshop.org at Phoenix Rising Mentoring. And I'll share all the link to the list, excuse me, and all of Abby's links. So Abby, if you can just share quickly a few good places to find you for the audience, anyone who wants to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So I spend time on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find me with my name, Abby Kneipp. And I also have a private women's Facebook group called the Women's Temple. For any of you women who want to be a part of sisterhood, I go live in there weekly and lots of yummy, juicy things in there. And yeah, if you want to know more about my work, you can click the link in both of my bios on my Instagram and Facebook, and it's all there for you.
Amazing. So all of those links will be in the show notes, and this will be posted to Everyday Women TV, but also to YouTube and Rumble, and it'll be shared on my podcast as well. So there'll be lots of ways to listen to Abby and to find you. And so I want to close this out by thanking you again. Thank you so much. I hope we do this again, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you, sister.